Welcome to Beyond the Breakwater, where just beyond the crashing waves of fear, discomfort, and doubt lies the greatest potential for life transformation. We want to guide you into the open waters where the calculated risk you take becomes the turning point for you or your organization to thrive. So draw up your anchors and prepare for departure in this week's episode of Beyond the Breakwater.
Welcome back, everybody. Great to have you today. My name is Ed Dorner, and we have a very special guest with us today, Bob Hansen. And Bob and I have known each other for about 15 years, and it's really great, Bob, to have you this morning. So I just want to welcome you.
Well, thank you, Ed. It's great to be here.
Yeah, this is really special for me, Bob. I've been looking forward to this podcast for a really long time, and maybe just to help people understand. So last week on our podcast, and if they didn't listen to it, I would encourage them to listen to the last one, because we talked about a concept called brokering. And brokering is really just when somebody has a little bit of extra and somebody needs a little extra, and the church has this amazing opportunity to stand right in the middle between the two. For example, if you have a car and somebody needs a car, the church can fix the car and then get it into the hands of somebody that really needs it. And so the reason why I'm really excited to have you here today is I would put you in that category of maybe having a little extra. And so we'll get to the bottom of what that means. But so that if you're just joining us maybe for the first time, just a little bit about Bob. Bob is the former CEO of a corporation here in Midland, Michigan called Dow Corning. And Bob, I just want to take you back just a little bit. And where did you grow up?
Well, Ed, it's interesting. I actually grew up here in Midland. My parents moved here in the early 50s, and so I was born and raised here. And grew up in the Lutheran Church, not Messiah, but another church in town. And I ended up graduating from high school and went to Valparaiso University in Indiana. I'm now on the board of Valpro, which has been very fulfilling, and I've learned a lot about higher education that I thought I'd never learn. But ended up when I was got a major in accounting and business administration, and so when I was looking for a job, interviewing. Valpo is close to Chicago, so a lot of the companies are in Chicago. But I had sent my resume both to Dow Chemical and Dow Corning in Midland, of course. I'm from here, right? That's kind of what you do when you're looking for a job.
Yeah.
So got an offer from Dow Corning, which I never expected. Just happened to be the best offer in the business school at Valpo. So
Wow.
I'd be crazy not to.
Yeah.
Part of it is I don't want to go back home, right? I mean,
Most people don't.
Trying to be independent. I was the 21-year-old independent guy. So, at the time, money spoke, and I was getting married, needed money, needed a job. So ended up moving back here to Midland, working as a manufacturing accountant in the Dow Corning's Midland plant right off South Saginaw Road. At the time, I think that's been closed now, if I understand correctly.
It has.
So, to kind of not take forever on my career background, but the beauty of and the benefit that I got from Dow Corning was if you were willing to take risks and willing to walk through an open door that was given to you, you could do about anything you wanted, which was amazing.
Wow.
18 months after we moved here, after I got married, graduated from college, they came and said, would you be willing to move to Carrollton, Kentucky as, the plant controller? I was 23 and a half or something, plant controller. I mean, that was I'm like, yeah, why not? So packed up. Our firstborn was 8 weeks old, which was not a great time to move, right? But said yes, and so on we go. Was there for 3 years. Came back, and about a year and a half later, came and said, "Would you be willing to move to São Paulo, Brazil,
Wow.
as a finance director manager?" And that one's a little harder than Kentucky,
I bet it was.
because I kind of had to look at where that was on a globe, on a world map. But talked to Kathy, and we had our second child by then. And so, trying to tell your parents and your in-laws that you're taking their 3-year-old and 1-year-old grandchildren to Brazil was, but
That's a hard thing
had to
do.
go. We had to go.
Mm-hmm.
It was great. Learned so much. It was great for the family. Moved back to Midland, and then we actually stayed about 10 years. And that was the period, I think, really God started messing with us. Kathy worked at the church we were going to. I was on the board of the church, and things happened. I felt the need to leave the board. Kathy felt the need to leave the job.
Wow.
And we went and visited churches in Midland, not only Lutheran churches. We were open because in Brazil, we actually went to it was an English-speaking church that were probably, there was like 18 different denominations.
Oh, wow.
So we got kind of
awesome.
open to many different denominations, and just being in a Bible class, being in a small group, listening to how other people think, or what what they learned growing up. It really opened our minds. So, but we ended up visiting Messiah Lutheran Church, which at the time was a little country church, but really, really felt at peace there. And then, so Kathy ends up getting a job there, 2 jobs.
Wow.
But then again, God came knocking, moved to Brussels, Belgium. Okay. And from a career standpoint, I had, when I came back from Brazil, I started Dow Corning, was not only giving me the opportunity to change locations or to develop from different geographies, but then also different functions within the company. So expanding outside of finance, accounting and finance, into commercial roles, and ended up leading a global commercial team. But they wanted me to go to Europe to assume the European president position in addition to the global role. So we had another opportunity. Discussion with the family. Daughter had just graduated from high school. Son going into junior year of high school. So that's a little different discussion.
Hard to move.
Yeah, hard to move, right? Hard to move when you got a 1 and 3-year-old. Hard to move when you have, a 16 and an 18-year-old.
Right.
So it was not without some conflict and crisis, but the end result was our daughter changed her college plans and came with us.
Wow.
Did her first year of college in Belgium. And then my son...
Great opportunity for her.
Again, and my son had his last 2 years of high school over there, which opened amazing doors for both of them. But again, you got to be willing to take the risk.
Right.
You got to be willing to listen to God's call, right?
Boy, those are 2 really significant things.
Yeah.
Willing to risk. And we've talked about that in the past, that churches in particular are used to having to risk. And now they're really having to start to risk if they want to be successful or just be in existence in the future. And you're right. And there's always a cost, isn't there?
Absolutely.
And it sounds like you had some significant costs moving over there. Okay, so then what happened after that?
Well, then my daughter's back going to the university in Florida. She went through some difficult times. My wife ended up having to move back and move to Florida to be with her I basically, talked to the CEO of Dow Corning at the time and said, I know this is not what you wanted, but I need to move back for the family.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a tough call.
Mm. That is hard.
Sorry.
You don't have to apologize. It's just being real. So you had a conversation with the CEO about moving back, and it sounds like that. It feels like that was kind of painful.
No, it was. It actually, at the time, it wasn't painful, but it's back to the risk.
Yeah,
It's a huge risk.
Mm-hmm.
The CEO could say, "Fine, your career's done."
right.
You had a nice run.
Mm-hmm.
You had potential, but in fact, it went the opposite way. Oh, wow. You're willing to sacrifice for your family. Let's give you more responsibility.
Wow. Okay, that's not normal.
Right.
Usually when you put your family in front of your career, oftentimes that ends your career.
Right. And I think we'll get there later about giving's the same way.
Yeah.
Right. If you put giving and God first, most people say, I don't want to give away my money, but actually you get it in reverse.
Yeah.
So it all ties together, right, Ed?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure does.
Yeah. So came back and got, I think top 5 job in the company, global business role, ended up executive vice president. And I made it very clear I didn't want to be president and CEO.
Mm-hmm.
I told them I did not. Every time they asked, no, I have zero interest in being CEO. So I ended up being CEO. Yeah. Kind of fit with my career path, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So they asked if I'd be CEO, and stepped in and did that. And that's kind of when you and I met, if I remember correctly. Right about that time.
It was right about that time. Because I remember that Sunday morning when we recognized that in church and just wanted to congratulate you for the new position that you had with Dow Corning. Because Dow Corning is one of 3 main employers that are in Midland. And so you had a big responsibility and a big role in the community.
Yeah, and for our listeners, just so you know, Ed is very good at making me uncomfortable in all sorts of little spots. And today is one of these times and spots, and he's just grinning from ear to ear.
It's about to get more uncomfortable.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure it is. And no. So I'd summarize my career as, and I spent a lot of time while I was CEO pouring back into emerging leaders within the company and trying to share with them the value of taking risks. Every door you close is not one door.
Right.
It's thousands of doors.
Right.
Right. That you don't know what's beyond the door you just chose not to go to close and not to go through.
Boy, there's a lot of messages in that too.
Yeah, it's multiplication of risks
and
opportunities. And again, we'll make the parallels later.
Well, I know how much I appreciated, Bob, whenever we would meet, and we would meet for lunch on occasion, and it just meant the world to me because you brought a global perspective. You were traveling all over the globe as CEO, and you would bring a perspective to me and really was helpful to me to just, look at it differently. And you're one of the sharpest guys I've ever met. And so it was always fun to sit down and bounce things off of you. I want to go to one lunch in particular because it was a game changer in my life.
You're going to test my memory, aren't you?
I am going to test your memory.
Yeah.
It was a Friday, and we met at lunch. And I remember that, and I'll tell you why I remember that so specifically. But we met at the Creek Grill, and we were having lunch. And I remember you asking me, like, how are things going and what's new? And there were always new things that were going on. And I remember sharing with you, and I said, well, we just had this really interesting thing happen. We just did an oil change. We partnered with a local garage, and we were asked to come and be the donor. So we just brought $500, Family Life Radio was sponsoring it, and a local garage, and we changed oil in 35 single moms' cars. And I went for about an hour, and we would clean out their cars and we would give them groceries, change their oil, do some simple repairs. And so I was there. It was great for an hour. Then I went back. And I remember Kurt was one of our pastors at the time. And I said to Kurt, I said, well, how did it go for the rest of the day? He said, well, it went really great, except what, Kurt? He said, well, 6 cars got condemned. And I said, what do you mean condemned? I'm a mechanic. I said, well, explain. He said, well, we were told, those moms were told, 6 of them, that their cars are unsafe and they're not worth fixing. I said, whoa, wait. I said, Kurt, you told 6 moms that the cars that they're driving their children in are not safe and they're not worth fixing. He said, yeah. I said, that's not a good answer, Kurt. And I said, so what did you do? He said, well, we cried. Okay, then what did you do? He said, we prayed. And I remember telling him, Bob, I said, Kurt, that didn't fix their cars when you prayed for them.
Right. And I remember that now. Yeah.
And then I said, then what did you do? He said, we sent him away. He said, so what are you going to do about it? Well, I had gone to all these garages and I asked them to partner with us. You know, could we be weekend warriors, bring our tools, our insurance, our mechanics? Everybody said no. So I remember walking with the chairman of our elders one time, and we were outside, and I was so frustrated. I said, Dennis, I'm so frustrated. I don't know how to solve this. And he said, well, maybe God has something bigger in mind. I said, yeah, like what? Build a garage? He said, yes. Well, that's all I needed to hear. So I started to prepare for a garage.
Yeah, you don't need a lot of encouragement.
No, I didn't need a lot of encouragement. So I went to Delta College, community college, and they have a repair training program. And so I went and said, would you help me plan a garage? I had no money. The church was in debt. We had no money. So back to our lunch. I remember telling you this on a Friday, and you said, do you have plans? And I said, actually, I do, because I kept it in my back pocket, just the blueprint, simple blueprint, handwritten. And you said, let me see it. He said, do you have a budget? And I said, yeah, the budget's, it's $175,000 to build a 40 by 60 garage. Now, I don't know what you remember. I'm going to test your memory. What do you remember happened after that?
Yeah, it's a little foggy.
Okay.
But I'm sure it sounds like
I
you've
can
got
make
it
it clear.
crystal clear.
I've got it crystal
I will
clear.
tell you what I remember, and then you can correct it. But
I'll give you a hint. You and Kathy had written the check on Tuesday.
Yeah. But didn't have any.
Talk about that.
Well, and we'll get into this, I think, later in our conversation today. But, we, just like God comes knocking on the door for career opportunities or moves, he comes knocking on the door for generosity and giving. And it was one of these times that, during prayer time or whatever else, and we were discussing that, I don't know, felt like I should write a check. Didn't know who to write it to. And sometimes I get very clear indication of the where, and maybe not as the amount. This time it was the amount and not the where.
Yeah.
So I'm just sitting there listening, kind of with a grin, because now it's becoming more clear, kind of where this is going. Kind of laughing inside because God's kind of like, see, I'm about to show you the where.
Yeah.
I'd already Tuesday you wrote the check for the amount. So when I asked for the plans, it was more just my way of kind of dragging it out.
I thought you were really curious.
No, I was just playing with you, like I always did. Yeah. And then I looked at the plans, and then I just remembered. I said, "Well, Ed, I think I can solve your problem." And that's the end. That's the story. Yeah.
So this is going to make you uncomfortable.
Great.
Yeah.
Again.
It will.
Still.
So the plan that we had was for $175,000 garage. So you said you wrote a check for $100,000 on Tuesday, and you left the name blank.
Yep.
And then I watched you cry. I watched then what I'm seeing now. And then you said, Ed, I really want to help. I'm going to add another $15,000 to it.
Yep.
That's when I cried, Bob,
Yep.
because it was only a dream. And
The picture of you and I just sitting in the restaurant crying must have
guys
been
crying.
priceless. Yeah, priceless. Yeah.
I think it was the
Yep.
first time that I've ever been with a guy who cried over something that God was doing. And it was so moving to me. And then when you told me that, I remember I cried. And I thought, is this for real? I knew it was, because that's the kind of God we serve,
Yep.
who always says,
Yep.
you know, imagine more, imagine greater. So right before we came here, we took a drive and we went out to the garage. So it's been a few years since you've been there. The garage celebrated its 10th anniversary.
Okay. Yeah, I think we left town about 5.5 years. So it's been at least 5.5 years since I've stepped
been a
foot in
while.
that garage. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I asked Mike. Mike is our garage manager. And so we went out there today and I just said, Mike, pull together a few statistics. So if you're listening, I want you to start thinking differently as a listener of what God is able to do and how God is able to multiply instead of consume. And we can talk about that in a moment. But the impact of your gift of $115,000 10 years ago has resulted in about 17,000 invoices. That's how many cars we've worked on over the last 10 years. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
When you start running the numbers, our garage we charge about 38% of what most other garages are charging, because we do some underwriting. You know, it's not like we're cheap. In fact, you saw the garage. I mean, it's $1 million garage. I mean,
It's
the
impressive.
Best, it's
impressive.
the best of everything. But what we do is we underwrite the cost so that when, say, this single mom comes in with a car, you know, she may pay $49 an hour, but we're underwriting, you know, others. Okay, so we had 17,000 cars worked on. And I asked Mike to run the numbers of the impact of your gift. And this was a number that he gave, and I just want to share it with everybody, that over the last 10 years, from June of 2013 until June of 2023, we've saved our customers in retail $4,384,488.
That's awesome.
That's an
Praise
incredible
God.
amount of
Yeah.
savings.
Yeah.
But I hope for anybody who's listening, you can do the math. It's about 37 times of a return on investment. So if you take $115,000 and you multiply it times 37, you're going to come really close to this $4.3 million. I just kind of want to know from your perspective, a lot of times when you give a gift to an organization and they just consume it for the running of the organization or for salaries.
Right.
What does it feel like when you realize you've impacted 17,000 people and you've saved over $4 million to, in particular, a single mom with children struggling, one crisis away from really being in trouble, and we were able to step in and really help? What's that feel like for you?
Well, first of all, it's amazing. It's great to hear that impact. And you know, when you give a gift like that, you're not doing it necessarily for a return on investment, right?
Right.
I mean, you're not. So, praise God, that's amazing. But you know, what it feels like is, and it's really interesting because I'm here today with our pastor from our local church in Boone, North Carolina, Michael. And 4 weeks ago, one of Michael's associate pastors gave a sermon. This is just 4 weeks ago. It was right before you contacted me on this, which again, you know, and his theme was be fruitful and multiply, not in the Genesis sense, right? God expects us to bear fruit, sow seeds. And he used the analogy of an apple. An average apple has 5 seeds, right? And if you put those 5 seeds in the ground, they'll grow an apple tree. It takes 7 to 10 years for it to bear fruit. So let's say, you know, year 7, it produces 20 apples who have 5 seeds. And okay, you get the
multiply.
analogy. It's
Yeah.
to multiply. And I sat there and I actually thought about this,
Interesting.
which is overwhelming.
It is overwhelming. I wish you could meet the people, Bob, because it's the person who comes in and they have cancer and they have nowhere to turn and they don't have the money to fix their car. And they go out and we say, how much can you put towards it? And they scramble and get the change from the car that they can muster up. And they come in and put the change on the counter. And we say, pay it in full. You can't put a value on those.
You can't. No, I agree.
And when you watch the life-changing impact of one person at a time coming out there that now has hope and they can work, it's a lot of hope. So there's another part of this story that I didn't realize you didn't know, that we also opened up a car dealership. And we're probably one of the few churches across America that we have a car dealership.
You always struck me as a used car salesman.
I'm a used car salesman. I am.
Yeah.
So we have a dealership because anytime you have 5 transactions in the state of Michigan with a used car, you have to have a license. So when we opened up the repair facility, we got a dealership license. Over the last 10 years, we've taken in 522 cars in donation.
Awesome. Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I've come to realize that one of the most precious gestures, now you just have to picture this if you're listening, but if you take your keys and you hold up a set of keys and then you reach across the counter and you hand the keys to a new owner of a car, because here's what we do. We take the car in donation and then we fix it up. And whatever we have into it, we usually sell that to the person. So we've had a number of occasions. So the average car that's donated is about $4,500 in value, and our average out-the-door price is about $600 for that car that's now safe, worked over so that when we get it in the hands of, think about those 6 single moms. Now this is, I have to tell you, my favorite day, which is almost sad, but it's always my favorite day. There's about 5 months I was running the garage, and when a mechanic would come in and a mom would be there, and he would say, I'm really sorry to tell you, but your car's unsafe and not worth fixing. Well, we would watch her life implode instantaneously. And I would say, wait, hold on. There's hope. And she was like, what do you mean there's hope? Just wait. So the mechanic would say, what's going on? And then I would say, take a walk with me. And we would walk out to the lot. Now, God made sure we never had more than about 2 cars out in the lot. And so I would walk out to the lot and I would say, humor me, which one do you like better? And they're like, I don't understand. Just pick one. So they get in it, they look around, and they would pick a car and they'd say, I really like this car. We'd say, okay, here's the deal. I want you to come back tomorrow with the title for your old car and $23. And they're like, I'm not understanding, Ed.
Why $23?
Why $23? And what are you doing? Well, I don't understand. And we said, well, you need $15 for title. You need $8 for plate transfer. And your old car, which is junk, we're going to scrap it, and we're going to take the money for that. And that's the payment for your new car. So we might have a car that we put $600 into it, and we would take the old car's payment, and she would drive out with a new car for her that's completely safe.
Life-changing.
Bob, we've done that about 400 times from a gift that you and Kathy gave. Those moments when they come in and they're like, is this for real? This sounds way too good to be true. And then we would be able to transact the deal and get everything signed over. And then we collected $23 and they would be driving out in a new ride. So I don't know how to say thank you because it's so interesting to me that you didn't even know that all this life change is going on, all this life act. You gave the gift and left. But the gift
sounds so cold that way.
I know, but the gift keeps going. So here's the cool thing. Wait for another 10 years. And another 10 years, I'm guessing 4 million is going to be 10 million. And I guess 500 cars is going to be 1,200 cars, whoever
Right.
knows. Who knows how many it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's the impact of your gift. And it doesn't really end there. I want to go a little further, if you don't mind. This
Make
one's
me
a little,
uncomfortable again?
yes, it's going to be another uncomfortable. And I don't want to be offensive to people, especially to women, but I just have to tell this story. So we had a worker in one of our community ministries. She was a single mom. She had a daughter. And we were talking one day, and she was just talking about a boyfriend, and then she was telling me about another boyfriend at another time. And I finally just asked her, and I just said, you just seem to have all these boyfriends. Can you help me understand what's going on? Why you have all these boyfriends? She said, well, Ed, none of these boyfriends are actually husband material. And I said, well, then what are you doing? I don't understand. Why are you with them?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, you don't understand. She said, I'm a single mom with a daughter, and because I've been in jail, I can't just go anywhere and get an apartment. They do a background check. I can't get it, so I have to go to slumlord. But I usually can't afford the rent. I said, okay, keep going. She said, so I would bring a boyfriend in. And now I'm getting uncomfortable. And she said, I'd bring the boyfriend in, and I would exchange rent money for favors.
Mm-hmm.
I'm horrified. And I said, is this like a normal thing? She said, you got a piece of paper and a pen? I said, sure. So I ran and got a piece of paper and a pen, handed it to her. She said, oh no, it's for you. I'm going to give you the names of 10 people, my friends. We're all doing this. Now I'm going to use her term, not mine, her term. She said, Ed, you have to prostitute yourself for rent. I don't know what that does to a listener. This was another one of those moments for me. I have to do something. I just have to. I remember coming to your home, asking if I could meet with you and Kathy. Sitting in your living room, I remember telling you this story. And I remember you just saying, what do you have in mind? And I said, Bob, I've never done this in my life. Would you buy a house so we can change lives? You said yes. So we went and bought a house for $40,000.
Mm-hmm.
We put $60,000 of materials into it. And we actually used people that were homeless or recovering from addictions to do all the work in the house. And then we moved this person in with her daughter. And I'll never forget what she said to me. She said, for the first time in my adult life, my daughter's safe. And I looked at her funny. She said, oh, Ed, you really don't understand. This is where all this abuse comes for children of single moms, because we bring a boyfriend in and abuse happens. And she said, for the first time in my adult life, I don't need somebody else's rent. Now, I think I told you what we do with the money, so that when somebody pays rent, we charge 30% of what they make, but we rebate back to them about 90% of that. So like this person came with $25,000 debt, and we rebate all the money back so that within a 3-year period, we get them completely out of debt. They're safe. They're in a place now they can afford, and they can move on from the house and really do well. But do you remember the day I invited you and Kathy to come to the house?
Meet her and the daughter. Yep.
What was that like for the two of you to meet her?
Yeah, it was. So that's different than the auto garage. His hands, because 10 years later now you're showing me that's a immediate people impact, kingdom impact.
Yeah.
Not why we gave the gift,
Right.
but it brings it. This. It brings it down to a one person at a time.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the most expensive ministry, because if you think about $100,000 gift, changing one family at a time. But I don't think I've shared with you. So after she left, she called me about a year ago and told me how amazing she's doing, how well her daughter's doing. It truly changed her life. Then we moved another single mom in there with kids. Really impacted her life. We moved another person who was living in a tent. And interesting story how these two stories connect. He came to us to get his car work done. And I happened to walk out to the garage, and a bolt broke like at 4:45. And this couple said, oh, we're in trouble. I said, what do you mean? They said, well, we're living in a tent. I mean, this is September. They're living in a tent with their child, a 4-year-old. What are we going to do? I mean, this is it. We only have one car. So we were able to get them a loaner, and they went out. So I said, would you meet with me tomorrow? We met with them. And it turns out they are homeless, living in a tent for about 6 months, and now it's about to get cold. And I said, what do you need? He goes, well, nobody will hire me. And I said, would you like to start today or tomorrow? And he goes, for real? So he actually became a mechanic in the garage. We were getting him certified in his certifications. He moved into the house. His goal was different. He didn't have the debt. He wanted to save up so that he could move out and move into his own place. So for the next year, they were saving money. They were working at the garage. So think about the garage and a house working together. So that was an amazing story of another couple. We had a pastor move into town in a time when it was after the flood. If you remember, there was no housing anywhere. And I happened to, we had a vacancy in the house. And so we moved them in. And then when that flood happened, there was another couple that I was driving through all the flooded area, and somebody goes, hey, Ed, and I'm like, hey, and I'm like, what's going on? They told me, look, we just got flooded out. Come see the house. I said, where are you going to go? They said, we got nowhere to go. And I said, yes, you do. So I actually handed over the keys, and they moved into the house that afternoon to restore this family, keep them from the flood. And then just about 2 weeks ago, we moved in there with a single mom into this house. I don't know how to say thank you on their behalf. They're safe. They have hope. They're not destitute. It's one of the greatest impacts I think I've ever seen is walking alongside families. What we need is 20 houses.
I knew there was an ask coming. I just knew it.
We need 20 houses, Bob, because imagine what we've done with one. Imagine if we had 20. I really believe that we could change homelessness here in Midland.
Yeah.
And it's a model that every community could actually follow because it works. Yeah. And then gives the church this incredible opportunity to come alongside a family and just really care for them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
I would suggest you thank God for that, not me.
Oh, I thank God for it all the time, Bob. But it's nice to be able to say thank you for the impact you're having. So, okay, I'm going to shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
You have a tremendous opportunity now to really speak into the lives of maybe somebody who has a little bit extra. And you can speak into their life different than I can. We've talked about the multiplying effect and the impact. What would you say to them?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'd say pray about it. If you have extra, pray about it. See where God wants to take that desire to give. So I'd start there. And typically,
Great place to start.
God will either give you an amount or a who. And the other thing is, it might take months, might take years, but pray about it.
Yeah.
So I was reading this week, just like the sermon, right before you call, of course, God's messing with us, right?
Yeah.
So it was Rick Warren had a devotional, and it really, to me, was just so pertinent to this. So Dad takes his son to McDonald's, buys him a supersized pack of French fries. Driving home, Dad reaches over, grabs one of the French fries, and the boy's like, "Dad, you can't have one. Those are mine." And the dad's like, I bought those. I took you there. I have every right to a French fry.
Yeah.
But no, they're mine. Right? Well, whose money is your money? It's your dad.
Yeah.
Right? Who took you to where you are? Who gave the opportunities
To be generous.
How dare we not give God a French fry? And if you buy into that it's God's, right? He bought you your French fries. And how dare we scold God when he wants us to give him a French fry back? He's given us everything we have, right? And, he's asking not for all of it. He didn't ask for the dad didn't ask for all the fries. He just wanted one.
Yeah.
So it's $20.
Yeah.
It's $100. I don't know. It's $100,000.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, if God's asking for that French fry, shame on us if we don't heed the call.
Yeah.
And that's what I've learned. And sometimes it's painful. Sometimes it takes years for you to quit, trying to steal the fry back. But I've learned now, I've matured enough that if God wants French fry, here, take two.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
You've probably also seen, and that's kind of our stories, that you give God back, and then God has unlimited supply. He could give you.
Oh yeah.
He could give you so many French fries you'd be sick.
And that's what he does.
Yeah.
He will bless and be generous for those who are generous to him. I truly believe that. And I've seen it firsthand. And I keep getting asked to give French fries back. So beware. You give away one French fry, God's going to ask for more, but he's going to bless you so richly that you're just going to want to give more French fries back. I mean, it's amazing. And I know again, it's kingdom math, not business math.
Right.
And he will multiply that. But just, so start with prayer. Think about French fries. I know that sounds really kind of stupid,
great.
but
I'm hungry.
Anyway, so that's kind of, and that was just this week again.
Wow.
Reading that, and I'm just like, I know Ed's going to make me uncomfortable. I know he's going to ask me questions about, extra and giving, and it just so resonated with me. And I just wanted to share that with your listeners.
I appreciate it.
That have a heart for God.
Yeah.
Have a heart for giving. Have a heart for those who are in need.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway.
Let's go with the analogy one last time, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
So God asked for a French fry. There's almost a closed hand and an open hand. If God asks for a French fry and we close our hand, how do you think God feels and responds to that? If we're like, mine.
Disrespected.
Okay. Do you think he'll give you more if you're going to keep your foot clenched?
Most likely not, I would think. Yep.
So when he asked for French fry, and you said sometimes it's hard, but you open up your hand. And God is amazing how when we open up our hand and say, you gave them to me, I'm just returning back what you gave to me.
Right.
Then there's that multiplication that God takes.
And then he
the
gives
gift.
you a burger to go with your fries. How's that for the analogy? Yeah?
I love it.
That wasn't in Rick Warren's devotion.
Yeah, but that was better. That's a great
But it's true. But it's true.
Yeah.
He will feed your hunger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bob, I can't say thank you enough, because I think this is one of those podcasts that's going to really resonate with a lot of people and get them really thinking about it. And my prayer is that they would open up their hand when God asks for a French fry and maybe give two.
That's
and
right.
it might be painful. But that's what God is able to do, is to take those couple of French fries and turn it into more and more and more. That's his math. So
Amen.
I can't say thank you enough.
No.
God bless you, because I know you continue to be asked to be generous. I know you're in an endeavor right now in North Carolina that God's tapping on you to be generous, to impact the people in your community there. And I'm excited to see what God's going to keep doing in your life and through your life. And Bob, just me to you, thank you. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you for your obedience. And thank you for having such an incredible impact on so many lives.
You're welcome. And thank you for your friendship, Ed. It means a lot.
It means a lot to me too, Bob.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Beyond the Breakwater, a podcast of Elevate Community Ministries. Don't let the conversation stop here. You can email us at hello@beyondthebreakwater.org. We would love to chat with you, answer questions, plan a visit, and help you take your next step. We'll see you next week.